Now we are going to talk about mechanism of gaseous exchange in fish, toad, mammals, and plants. First, let's treat the fish. The fish, as we know, is an aquatic animal, vertebrate aquatic animal, and like we discussed earlier, it makes use of the gills for gaseous exchange. This gills, like we said, is richly supplied with blood to enable it to transport this oxygen to the heart and transport carbon dioxide out into the water body. Now, how does fish take in oxygen? Fish, as an aquatic animal, takes a lot of water or drinks water. And while it does that, it closes the operculum, that is the covering of the gills, so that this water can come in and interact or exchange with the gills. The oxygen diffuses through the water into the gills, and that is how the gaseous exchange takes place. After this has been done, the fish closes its mouth and opens the operculum or the gill covering, which allows the deoxygenated water to come out. Now, this deoxygenated water will also contain carbon dioxide. That is how gaseous exchange is done in the fish. Now let's move to the toad. The toad has three methods of gaseous exchange. First, in the baby toad or the tadpole. As an aquatic animal, the tadpole is an aquatic animal, it makes use of the gills. However, unlike the fish, the gills are open, they are not covered. So as the tadpole swims in water, it meets freely with water particles and oxygen is diffused into it, and the gaseous exchange takes place. Carbon dioxide comes out almost simultaneously. But as the toad grows from a tadpole to being a full-grown toad, it uses two major methods of gaseous exchange. The first is the cutaneous or the skin respiration, and the second is the lungs. While in water, with the wet skin or moist skin that it has, it is able to get oxygen diffused into it from water, and this oxygen can mix with the blood vessels that are lining this skin, this moist skin. Oxygen is diffused into the blood and is transported to the heart for it to be moved to all the parts of the body. And finally, the toad has the organ, the lungs. The lungs function almost like the lung of a higher animal or a mammal will function. And when the toad wants to use its lungs to breathe, what it does is that it takes in air through its nostrils. And after it does that, the air moves down to the lungs where gaseous exchange takes place. That's where carbon dioxide is released and oxygen is received. And from there, the oxygenated blood moves to the heart for transportation to other parts of the body. We are also going to talk about transportation or respiration in mammals. Mammals have only one organ of respiration, and that is the lung. And a pair of lungs. Every mammal has a pair of lungs, and these lungs is very thick. These lungs are very thick and richly supplied with blood. We have two lungs, as I stated earlier, which are connected by a bronchi, as a pair of bronchi. The bronchi is also connected to the nasal cavity or to the nose through what is known as a trachea. Now, other organs involved in breathing in mammals include the diaphragm, which is more like a muscle that enables the lungs to constrict or to relax, that is, to squeeze or open. Then we also have the pharynx and the epiglottis, which covers the throat when breathing is about to take place. So let us move to gaseous exchange in mammals. Air is taken in through the nose, passes through the larynx to the pharynx with the epiglottis closed so that air doesn't rush into the other parts connected to the pharynx, which is the digestive system or the esophagus. Enters into the trachea and goes down into the lungs. Now in the lungs there are some small air sacs known as alveoli. These alveoli are where gaseous exchange takes place. The lung is more like a bag of sponge with all these alveoli inside of it that enables it to absorb oxygen from air and to also release carbon dioxide into the air. Something also takes place when we breathe in. The lungs expand, definitely due to taking in air, and the muscles of the diaphragm also contracts. That is, it becomes tightened. It becomes tightened, and when we breathe out, the muscles of the diaphragm relaxes. The intercostal muscle, the muscles surrounding the lungs, also relaxes and forces the air out through the nose. Like I said earlier, gaseous exchange takes place in the alveoli of the lungs. Now, this alveoli of the lung is the part that is richly supplied with blood. It is from the alveoli of the lungs that the right ventricle receives this blood and transports it to the heart for transport. And with that, we move to respiration in plants. Respiration in plants is much simpler. It takes place on the surface of the leaves through an organ known as stomata, or singular, which is the plural for stoma. Stoma is composed of several cells like the guard cells, the lenticels, and so on. And what these do is they form a kind of muscle-like system that gauges how air comes in or goes out of the plant. Now, the stomata are located more underneath the leaf, and under the leaf, that rough side under the leaf, is where most of the stomata are located, while we have very few over the leaf, that's on top of the leaves. When the plant wants to take in oxygen, the guard cells allow the stomata to open up and let oxygen come in. Now, this guard cell and the lenticel, this guard cell allows the air to come in, and the air reacts with what is known as the lenticel, which allows the air to diffuse, or oxygen to diffuse into the plant. And from the lenticel, the oxygen is transported to other parts of the plant through the cell sap. And that is all for respiratory system. Let us deal with some past WAEC questions.